Alright, yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy, Envy the Hitman. We got our guy here, Emerson Hall, the man, the myth, the legend. Man, how are you?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Heck yeah, dude. Alright, man. So, for the people that don't know, this is the man that is responsible for breaking TrapTrix, making it amazing for all of us to play. He has the most success with the deck. Just to give him some background, uh, Emerson Hall. Started off playing Trap Trick. He got a day two at a YCS Philly. All right. List was a little bit different than what you're seeing on screen.
That was actually my first event large in the local even.
Oh yeah, I mean, being in a first event playing Trap Trick, I mean, you love to see that. Then he went on to a top eight finish, the Massachusetts Regional. That was his very first regional, so that was where he got his invite. Then we went. Then he ran it back. I want to say what, like maybe a couple weeks later at the South.
Literally the next weekend.
Yeah, ran it back and got a first place finish at the South Portland Regional, and then he did it once more again. Couple, what was it, last weekend?
Uh, the weekend, the week before the premieres.
Okay, and got a third place finish at the Hartford Regional. Alrighty, man. Well, just going off base your success with this deck, we're just gonna just dive into the in-depth profile. We'll go over the profile itself first, and then I'm gonna ask some questions. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So you play the three ash and the three diff shifter, right?
Yep.
So
The hand trap packet, the 12 slot non engine. Everything else is more or less engine, except for the ash blossoms, dimension shifters, evenly matched, and imperm.
yeah,
Those are, except for imperm, usually the stuff you want to play at all times. Shifter is the best card in the game as a hand trap because Maxi is gone.
absolutely.
The only times you would ever not play that hand trap is during a format where the best decks are decks that don't care about it.
All
Because
right.
your deck, because as a TrapTrix, you care a tiny bit about the graveyard. It's important for your OTK setups, it's important for your recovery, and it is sometimes important for setting up an end board, but usually you don't care nearly as much as your opponent, so therefore you play the Dimension Shifter.
All right.
I think this card should be banned, gone, killed. Ash
Absolutely.
Blossom, Ash Blossom is similarly, though significantly more of a flex spot. Uh, at Philly and Springfield, I did not play Ash. I played Droll, and uh, at Philly, I didn't play evenly matched. I played Nibiru instead, just because a lot of the decks either put up enough negates or would attempt to hand loop you. So the evenly matched was not nearly as important.
Right.
Uh, because of that, the Ash slot is usually where you'd put a like whatever the hand trap of the format is. Right now, Unchained is popular. Pearly is still fairly popular. Even Tearlament has an issue if you ash them sometimes. Infernoble can sometimes just not have plays under Ash. It's very deck dependent that Ash is a good card, but at worst, it's just a side out.
Right. Okay. All right. Then we played the standard line. Um, the two, the two, the three, three, and three, and this is where your list different from a lot of people. So, what was your reasoning behind playing this card?
Vesiculo is an interesting one because she isn't really traditionally super powerful. She's extension, which Kampa should be able to do as well, but she requires resources. And she can special summon herself, which is great for making a Sarah without your normal summon, but that also requires a trap card. So it's a more costly Kampa that has the trade-off of being more applicable. She also has a graveyard effect to reset a hole from grave, assuming you have no back row at all. You can have a field spell, but as long as your spell and trap cards have anything in them. So, for example, if I have anti-spell fragrance in the back row, or if I have a set hole from Sarah, she will not proc. However, I've found a lot of times where either the resetting part or simply being able to special her by sending Holity to grave, if Holity is my only hole in rotation, is incredibly useful to make a decent end board. A
Absolutely.
lot of those utility is also in making sure your Holity isn't too costly. If you if you have to normal summon Vesiculo, that's much better than having to normal summon Campa or Dionea,
Right.
because you can link her off immediately. And now, if you use Holity by discarding a whole normal trap, if they ash you normally, that card is gone. You have very few ways of getting that card back.
Right.
However, if you've normal Vesiculo, Vesiculo's effect hasn't activated, you can banish her from the graveyard, set a trap, and then trigger Sarah to set another trap.
Gotcha.
Um, it's not the most important thing, but it is a thing that I value a lot in the card. If it
Abs-
wasn't a shared once per turn between both effects, this would be a 3 of without question. Unfortunately, it's not. And one other thing about the monster lineup that I want to mention,
Okay.
I was this close to playing Nepenthes
Oh,
at
really?
this regional, because Nepenthes with shade or Putica shade hands are super fun with Nepenthes. However, I forgot to bring her, so
Gotcha.
I didn't have
And what
one.
is this? What is this card we're talking about?
TrapTrix Nepenthes, the
Appendix.
one next to Murmelio and Ping. It's basically a Sarah that's not Sarah. If you activate a whole normal trap rather than a normal trap, you can special
Oh,
summon
nice.
or add to hand a TrapTrix monster from your deck.
Gotcha.
This is both not restricted by the monsters you currently have on field, like Sarah is,
Mhm.
but also insane for getting recovery or follow up. You
Right.
can add, for example, a Arachnicampa to keep one in hand while you have one on field, or you can add a Dionea for follow up. Uh, it's it also makes hands where you have shade really nice if you have Putica,
Okay.
because if your shade resolves, you can summon Nepenthes, make a ping detach the Nepenthes to search a Dionea, extra normal reborn, and now you have Holity set from Sarah, discard whatever trap you have, and you have 4 bodies without locking yourself that you can make into an XC. Like, you can make a 3 material Alamiris, reborn, and then make a Rafflesia, or you can make Reader or Rafflesia, or you can make Rafflesia Durandal, Reader or Durandal. You're not locked into anything. It's
Nice.
incredibly useful for swarming.
Nice. So, like, future lists, are you gonna try to play this at like a one of?
I'm probably going to do it. I wouldn't do it if I'm looking to. I'm probably going to do it likely either for the second Arachnicampa, because I really don't like that card very much, or potentially I'm just going to throw it in as a 41st card.
Okay.
I would not recommend it to players who are looking to get an invite, just because it is extreme. It makes your hands more prone to hand traps than they otherwise would be,
Right.
because they have more points to interact with it. You plant into Nibiru a lot harder. Um, she's not actually the best monster to normal summon. Remember, I was saying Vesiculo is not the worst to normal summon. Dionea, Arachnicampa, Nepenthes definitely is up there with those two.
Right. Okay. All
But
right.
I'm probably going to bring her to the next one as like I already have my invite. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, you got to. You got to at least test it out because I mean, you just never
Yeah,
know. All right. And so then in the,
the best card in the game, the
I mean,
Prosperity.
yeah, I mean, you just if you have this, play it. I mean, there's really no other way around this
It's
card.
fun. It's fun because I often just activate it and say I'm gonna duality, and then I just banish 3,
Yeah.
because the extra deck is actually surprisingly tight. Um, Often my banish is literally just Durandal Ptolemaeus,
Gotcha.
Durandal Ptolemaeus package. Sometimes if I think they're going to go, if I think they're like 2 material Zeus, or the 4 material Zeus, excuse me, or the evenly is gonna be important. Sometimes I'll banish like Asa Underworld Goddess Zeus,
Okay.
or Dweller, or third Sarah. Very rarely did I banish 6.
Gotcha. All right. So you mainly use this more as a Potter duality versus an actual
You
go for six.
Usually it would be to fix awkward hands. Post side, you're more justified to go 6 if you do not have anti-spell fragrance or judgment in your hand, because you want the out to duster, you want the out to lightning storm, you want to make talents not live, and most importantly, for judgment specifically, you don't want to deal with evenly matched. uh,
Absolutely.
Ptolemaeus is into Durandal is the out to evenly match that the deck has that doesn't play around any hand traps, or that plays around more hand traps than like a Therian package, but it
Right.
still isn't the best end board if they end up not having it.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
All right, and then the one garden. Now, personally, you inspired me to play this kind of list for the national regional, the success. Got my invite, but there was a lot of times I missed a second garden. So, what is your experience on just playing the one of?
Yeah, so it's less that I want to play the one off Garden, because the Garden is a very powerful card to open. I think if you open Garden plus Mantis, you
Right.
have I don't care what the rest of your hand is, you are winning that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, the thing is that I really want Putica more than I want Garden. I want Putica engraved so I can use it. So I can use it to reborn with Holity. I want Putica in hand for a neck for turn 3, so I can normal it to add Garden in case I played without using it, which happens a lot because
Right.
you don't really mind the Sarah getting destroyed if you're playing 3, so
Mhm.
you're often fine keeping the garden in hand, assuming you don't have, or assuming you have a manual Sarah trigger like an Imperm or a Shade Breeding set.
Right.
But the most important thing is that I've tried playing the 2/2, and it just is really hard to grind if you don't have Sarah being able to summon Putika from deck a few times.
Got you.
Uh, but more importantly, I tried it with 3/2 at one point, and I did not enjoy drawing uh, double garden plus Putika or Putika garden.
Got you.
Uh, I think one is more than enough a lot of the time. Not having it has only come up for me once, and it was a time where I should have not played it at all.
Got
Like
you.
I just shouldn't have activated it from hand. It didn't add anything.
Right. Okay. All right. I like that for sure. Actually, fun, crazy experience. My round of 7 opponent at the regional. It was a TrapTrix mirror match.
Oh,
Played one
yeah,
Putica.
you'd want to there. Yeah, that's fair.
My opponent played one Putica.
There's no shot.
Dude, no lie. He said
Was it
he
one
said he
Putica, 3 garden?
no. It was literally just one Putica, one Garden. He said he hates this card and he would not play it more than one.
It definitely has it. Putica's weird because
I like
Putica
it, man. It's a good card.
when I was playing when I first saw the structure deck, right, uh I thought Putica was like kind of okay, because the thing is that at that point we were still playing Shifter,
Right.
and we still are playing Shifter, and that's kind of the issue, is that playing Shifter while you're your best monster to special summon most of the time says then your opponent can special summon anything from banished is a really big risk, because hey, they could special summon anything,
Right.
even their Baron or their Dispater or something that procs on special summon to like add them resources, and that's terrifying.
Right.
Because like imagine and this happened to me at Springfield actually, or at not Springfield, South Portland.
Okay.
I was terrified to use Putika for a long while, because they had Yamas banished,
Mm.
and because if I banished a monster, it was probably going to be the Abominable Unchained Soul, which is which when special summoned pops a card I control.
Right.
So I'm just losing tempo if I don't kill them that turn,
Right.
and I wasn't going to kill them that turn. So a lot of the times, she can be a very high risk option to activate, but as long as you set up so that when they come back you're fine, you should be okay using the card. It's a trade-off, but it is very worth it most of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so that's it for the spells. We'll hop into the traps now. All right, so this is where this separates you from a lot of trap trick players. The three evenly, I see that a lot. The two is solid.
It's
For a
funny,
while, we
evenly.
were
Evenly
playing.
was evenly was so bad over the weekend. It was like
Really,
I would see it going first,
gotcha,
and then I discarded off Holity. And the
gotcha,
two times I saw it going second was versus Unchained, which I did resolve it, and it was actually very impactful. Had they not had the Ash for my prosperity,
gotcha,
because I trained harder the Caesar, they popped the Caesar, they did all these things to get advantage, and then I evenly matched them, negating all the advantage. And then I'm left with Holity, Campa, uh, prosperity. They ask the prosperity for 3, and I go, yeah, you got it.
gotcha.
Um, I kind of wish that was Nib for that event, but I feel like evenly matched as a free discard is worth it anyway.
Gotcha. And then the two floodgate that was kind of standard. Then people were also playing the two trapo, which you swap this out to just the one of. Do you want to talk about this ratio any?
Yeah.
Okay.
Two floodgate trap hole for this event specifically was a what do you call it when a limb is like whales have feet from when they used to walk on land.
Right.
What's that word called? What's that word for it? Um, Whatever that type of thing
Yeah.
uh is why we have two. I have two floodgate trap hole, one gravediggers in this.
Gotcha.
Back early Syac when Pearly and Cashier were the two best decks. That was incredible. This was just the objectively correct ratio for these three cards because Gravedigger's Trap Hole does nothing against Cash except hit Scareclaw Cash, which they play one of maybe, and
Right.
it hits Rise Heart, I guess, which you didn't really care about because the more important thing was booking the special summon and the normal summon.
Gotcha.
Anything else, and you go, okay, you've used a ton of resources. Your hand had better be insane
Yeah.
to play through this plus whatever disruption I have outside that. This format, I kind of wish I didn't play the two floodgate, or this event, I should say. I kind of wish I didn't play the two floodgate, one gravedigger. I kind of wish I'd play the two gravedigger, one floodgate, like I used to pre structure,
Okay.
because gravedigger just comes up in more of the options that are in this format.
Right.
Infernoble comes up a lot. Mikonko it comes up a lot. Dino it came up a lot. Manadium,
Tier.
Unchained for sure, Tier,
Yeah.
um, those kinds of decks that are either rogue or fairly good. Like the only decks Gravediggers doesn't hit this format specifically is Pearly and Sprite.
Right.
And even in Sprite, you can hit the caddy, you can hit the beaver, or sorry, not the beaver, the angler.
Right.
So you can get some value out of it, but that's why you'd only play one in that matchup.
Gotcha.
So I kind of wish I had switched these.
So going forward, just one floodgate and then two of the grays.
Yes,
Okay.
you definitely want to have a second floodgate available, or at least another utility hole in the side, especially if you're playing as I am, limited cards like the Duster and Change of Heart.
Right.
For matchups like Sprite, like Pearly, but certainly not for not in the main at this point.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Then the three imperm, pretty standard. Whole
Best card in
T
the game.
obviously, and then the nightmare as well. But this card, so this is what separated you from a lot of people. So a lot of people are on Exceed versus this card. So what is
Yes,
the reason behind why you played this?
there's a lot of reasons. The main one that was part of the deck building for a long time, because Cashier was in the format, was you don't want to use Holity under Shifter.
Right.
Holity under Shifter, it doesn't stop the card from resolving, but you're now banishing that trap. So if the only trap you have to discard is a hole, that's negging you to the point. That's negging you in a way that you really don't want, especially if they can potentially ash the Holity. If they've
Right.
ashed, then sure, do whatever you want. But if they ash your activation of Holity, and then you have to discard the only other hole in your hand, that's a that's a lot of value you could have used by just setting 2 and then
Right.
passing, which is often genuinely often enough to stop a lot of decks, or at least break their end board enough that you can kill them on the crackback.
Gotcha.
Shade plays around that by being a trap monster that you can just use. It has a few nombos with evenly matched and imperm, but often you're either under shifter or you're completely okay just setting them and passing and using them as a manual Sarah after resolving a card like imperm or evenly matched. Additionally, if you have both Shade and Holity in hand, you can play a guessing game. You can activate Holity, discard a trap to reset, and then you have Holity Engrave and a manual Sarah trigger on field. The primary reason that I would tell people of the reason you would play Shade over Exceed, if you draw 2 Exceed, and this is a very low chance, I understand that, about 2% if you play
It comes up though.
if right, it comes up about 2% if you play 3 Exceed, and like 1% if you play 2. Which you're always playing 3 because otherwise like you're dead that 1% of the time.
Right.
If you play 2 Exceed, that Exceed is going to sit in your hand and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a second Shade, I can set that Shade. I
Absolutely.
can set that Shade and use it as a Sarah trigger during the end phase in case I want to play around tactics, or I can use it as a manual Sarah trigger in case I want to play uh, into tactics but around another card. For example, if I floodgate trap hole a monster but I don't want to banish it, for example, Kashtira, um, you could floodgate trap hole and then say no effect, and then they go to end phase and you go, okay, cool, now I have something to
Mm-hmm.
get Sarah's advantage. um, it's just an important line of play that lets you play really, really close to the ground. Uh, are there times where I wish it was just a free rank for? Sure. Um, but I'd rather end on a redoer than I would have them Veiler or Imperm the Exceed, and now it's a level 8, meaning I can't use it for anything. I guess next format you're gonna have SP Little Knight that you can use it for,
Right.
but even then, I think that's just a terrible situation you're in with just a defense position Cyrus monster that they can just, if they're on Mikonko, they can run into it. If they're on Pearly, that's a thing they can hit into for no damage. Have Sarah and then add Delicious Memory to their hand, and now they've got the Pearly OTK online.
Mm-hmm.
Where if they had just Sarah on field, they couldn't OTK you. They would have to go for Zeus.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's just a line of play that isn't super common, but I think is very important to, if not learn, get used to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely behind this card. Just from my experience at the regional. Yeah, like there were so many times where like I would set this and just summon it as a body to block an attack. I mean, it just comes up so much. It actually won me one of my games. My round of 4 opponent. I had a Zeus already where I nuked, and then he attacked. He top deck Fenrir, special Fenrir's attack, and then banished
The
Zeus.
classic.
Yeah, and then I flipped this, and so when the time was called, I flipped this, and so he had attacked this instead of attacking my life points.
Yeah.
So,
Importantly, if you're flipping this on a Fenrir declaration, you can flip it during the battle step after declaration,
mm-hmm.
and then they can't Fenrir affect you. And now you have a body that they have to answer by attacking, rather than they've effectively wasted their Fenrir effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
It also makes uh, it also makes hands with Holity Shade really nice, because if you go Holity, if you just set 4, you're probably living a turn. And if they don't set up any negates because you interrupted them properly, during the end phase, you can flip Holity. And now you have Shade access for the Sarah you're making next turn. It's just a lot of utility packed in one card.
Absolutely.
Especially under Shifter. Oh, that's another thing. If you're under Shifter and you draw no monster, but you draw Holity Shade, that is still full combo.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Holity can make the Sarah, and the Shade, because the card is banished, can now make the rank 4,
Yep.
which can often just be the Ptolemaeus hit into something, make Zeus pass.
Absolutely. All right. Now we'll hop in the extra. So you play the standard three of the Sarah, and then the one, the Adipus, and then the one Rafflesia, one Ping, and this card. All right. So I see a lot of people cut lists. I was one of the people that honestly cut this from my list. So what is the reason why you play this card, and maybe give us like a line of play of why this card is so good.
All right. So this card, pre-structure deck, you cut this. Like pre-structure deck, you did not care about this card. This card was like 90%, 99% of the time when you made this card, you would go, okay, I'm going to use this to solemn strike the opponent's DPE, DP effect a pop, and then just take it.
All right.
Because you can attach a material to take an opponent's monster that was banished or sent to the graveyard by your card effect
Mm-hmm.
from the field. Or you detach to Reborn 1 and make Caleria, which I'm not playing.
Gotcha.
The difference now is that we have a fun little card called TrapTrix Pudica,
Mm-hmm.
which has the effect that when that you can banish it when it's special summoned. So, for instance, if I make a 3-mat Alamiris, I can detach 2, including a Pudica, or have a Pudica engrave, reborn the Pudica, banish a monster, detach the last material from Alamiris, and then summon it to my side of the field. I have used this to steal many Cheng Yings, many Spent Barones, and a Rise Heart one time.
Nice.
Uh, this card comes up a ton, especially if you just make a two material. You're consolidating material that you can now use for the link 3 and then reborn another one. It makes OTKing super easy. It's a decent enough stat line that you can just make it as a 3 material body in order to make a big Zeus.
Right.
If you, for example, banish the Ptolemaeus package, and at worst, you can just play for stealing the opponent's monsters a bunch of times. One of the end boards with Nepenthes ended with a 1 material Alamiris with Pudica, Holity, and Grave. So you'd reborn the Pudica, banish the monster, detach the last material, summon their guy. It's really effective at a lot of the things you'd want out of a deck in order to board break.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like a lot of Trap Trick players definitely need to abuse this card more, me included. Like I've seen some of the lineup play, but I don't know. I never really thought about it in depth, and then it can work with when you're going for a game with this as well.
Yep, it is.
So
It's one of the big bodies that you can use for that.
okay,
I think the main reason people don't tend to use it is because it's not an end board piece.
gotcha.
Ping can be an end board piece. It hoses Tearlaments and kills a lot of other decks by taking key materials. Plus, it can search Campa, so sometimes you have no option but to make it an end board piece.
Right.
If you have a lot of back row, like if you're setting 5 passing, you don't make any rank 4 other than Ping to search Campa because you need the protection. Um, Alamiris just doesn't have that ability um, to play on turn 1 unless you're going for extremely convoluted lines with like UDF or something. Um, or if you need an extra body. I think this might be decent if you're trying to break. Oh, that's the thing. It will be decent if you're trying to break boards with SP, because you can
Gotcha.
Alamiris 2 material, detach 1, reborn, do like a Pudica effect or something, and then make an SP with that now, special monster from the extra deck and monster that's spent, and now you have an extra banish. So I think this
Nice.
card is going to be a lot better post Agov, but it's still very good, I think.
Okay. Then you put the redoer standard. Like if you
The
yeah
best TrapTrix monster,
yeah you gotta play this. I mean it's too good. Then you got the
especially if you're running on only the trap monsters as extenders.
mm-hmm.
This card is the funniest thing to just end on every game. He sticks around like nobody's business.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Then the Zeus, and then you got the Dweller. This was obviously a meta call, I assume.
It was actually somewhat last minute.
Really.
Um, in past lists, I played Baguska in the slot,
Mm-hmm.
and I was actually considering playing Baguska here.
Okay.
because Baguska was an out to Fluanderies, which
Right.
topped a which won a YCS, excuse me, recently, and has topped a bunch of regionals. Has become very popular as a anti-meta call due to its favorable matchup with Unchained.
Right.
Dweller deals with Unchained and deals with tier limits, which is also on the rise. But most importantly, this deck dies to flu half the time.
Mhm.
Mpen kills your main engine, which is Sarah, obviously.
Right.
But I did not think about what I wanted to take out. I'd been thinking about it for about a week, like what I want to take out, and I think I was correct to not put it in just because I didn't run into any.
Okay.
But also, the only thing I would probably cut would be Durandal if I didn't think evenly matched was going to be a big issue.
Gotcha.
Which it kind of was. I only got evenly matched like once or twice, but uh, I didn't make Durandal at all during the event, mostly just because I guess I was in the wrong mindset to play Durandal at the time.
Gotcha.
But I also thought Underworld Goddess was a very effective out to Fluanderies,
Okay.
because if you could simply keep them off of the continuous spell, you're very able to just beat over everything as long as they're out of Ryza.
True. Yeah. True. Okay. Yeah, I could
Yeah.
definitely see that for sure. This one, yeah, the Underworld God is just touch on that. Yeah, it actually came up a lot for me at the regional as well. It's kind of crazy how good this card is. Like turn 3 to turn 4 to turn 5. Like it's
It
pretty
was
crazy.
it was hilarious. The one I made it, I think, once or twice as a way to negate my opponent from special summoning from the graveyard.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
That was the only time I made it the entire day. Was like, oh, I just don't want you to special summon from the graveyard because they had reborn to like Foxy Tune or something, or Deer Note, excuse me. And I was just like, okay, you're not doing that ever again. I'm gonna make this.
All right. This one right here, the Earth Charmer. Perch,
MVP.
you like this card?
MVP of
All
the
right.
and I love this
I'm
card.
about to
This
say
card is
I got to hear this because like in my regional, my only experience was is I made this to special summon a TrapTrix monster out of my opponent's grave
all
in
right.
the mirror round
So
7. That was it.
that's fair. I mean, it is the mirror breaker. This card is incredible in the mirror.
Yeah.
But more importantly, this card comes up a lot because people are still playing Fenrir is the thing.
Right.
And this card gets to steal Fenrirs. And additionally, this card searches any TrapTrix names when it's destroyed.
Okay.
I think my round 3 or 4 opponent was a dinosaur player I'd played at Springfield. And at one point they had like Fenrir 2 cards Fenrir Logia pass.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I have to kaiju the Logia for sure. We were under shifter, so the stuff was banished.
Right.
But then I was like, huh, what I have cards in my graveyard because I played a line that I shifted after I shifted and had I don't remember if it was shift because shifter was over or because uh other things had happened. I think this might have been a later turn even.
Right.
But they had a Fenrir in grave. They had already used the Fenrir on field to banish a name I had. So I went into Asa, stole the Fenrir. Fenrir banish a card hit into a secure Gardena,
Mhm.
which they'd made because we were in a very simplified game state, and then went Asa into their spent Logia or Dolka, whichever one detaches to negate spell traps
Okay.
or monster effects, excuse me. And I went and crashed it to search a Dianea, and I had a field spell active, so I was like, you know what? Normal summon effect reborn, make Ptolemaeus, Constellar Diamond, Zeus, and
Nice.
now I threaten a big Zeus. I have a Fenrir on field, and I have a Gravedigger's Trap Hole on field as well. So I'm like, I'm pretty much chilling in this position, and that's
Right.
kind of what Asa does. She gets you material from Grave, which is really really nice. She's gonna be really nice with SP because you just steal a thing that's an Earth, make an SP with a monster special from the extract.
Nice.
But also, she can just search a TrapTrix monster, and that's insanely powerful.
Yep.
Uh, that was one of the first times I'd ever tried to make that play to crash. But even before that, I had been like, okay, I'll have this monster out, just in case they just hit over it, and now I can search my follow up.
Yeah,
Because
like the only card it doesn't grab is what, Putica. That's it, right?
the only TrapTrix monster it doesn't grab is monsters. Putica, Nepenthes, and Genlissia are the only 3 TrapTrix monsters it cannot search.
Gotcha.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible
that's
card.
awesome. No, yeah, that's awesome. And then this package, a lot of people didn't know about this. I think you're like the only person I've seen that actually played this package. So you
It's
guys,
come up a few times for I've seen other lists with it.
okay,
Um I think it got popular only recently because people have started moving away from Therians, which I think is correct. Um but the idea is that Ptolemaeus is a hilarious card with a hilarious effect to both attach a Satellar Knight specifically from the extra deck during the end phase, as well as detaching 3 materials to rank up.
mm-hmm,
This card was recently unbanned, I think last year, sometime last year during tier format, in order to or because it was abused in Pepe. You
yep,
would get a bunch of level 4 bodies, make a 3-mat Ptolemaeus, detach 3 materials to rank up into Cyber Dragon Nova, and then slap an Infinity on top of it.
yep.
And that would make an Omni Negate. And that's really powerful for an extra deck card, or for an XE specifically.
Especially in
Right
that
now,
time.
though, the thing with this is that TrapTrix doesn't put 3 odd numbers on board very easily without locking itself. Often, if you're putting 3 materials, it's because you've extra normal summoned like Myrmelio or something, or you've used Arachnid Camp as effective special summon, which is now which has now either a very niche scenario that you're not going to come up a lot, or you've locked yourself into plants and insects.
Right.
And that means that you're not going to often make a 3 material a 3 material Ptolemaeus. As a compensation, what's the next best rank 5 that you can make with Ptolemaeus' detach effect?
Mm-hmm.
It's Artifact Durandal, baby. That card is hilarious. Um, it is a functionally an Omni Negate for normal spell traps as well as monster effects on field. Uh-oh.
Uh oh. We timed out, man. We timed out.
We didn't clickable cards enough.
All right, we're back. We're back. We're back. All right.
Artifact Durandal. It's functionally an Omni Negate to destroy a spell trap your opponent controls. Usually that's a back row protected by Kampa.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just any back row. You trade a back row for the opponent's evenly matched, or
Which,
Duster,
yeah, that's
or
very,
Talents,
very important.
or Thrust.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that this card does not negate activation means that if they've used the Talents or Thrust, they've used the Talents or Thrust. It doesn't get negated. They can't use another one like they would if you would negate it with
Right.
Infinity or Barone.
Right, because it just
The
changes the
sec
effect.
Yep, exactly. The
Nice.
second effect, which these are on a shared soft once per turn, you can attach a material from the card. Each player shuffles their hand in their deck, and then draws the same number of, or each player, excuse me, with a hand. So you can use this if one of you does not have any cards in hand, and then draws the same number of cards shuffled into the deck.
Nice.
This is not very good. You can use it in battle phase if you want. If you think they might have 2 evenly, if you have like the hard read that they have 2 evenly, so you can say like, okay, you're only getting 1, or you're getting a 0. But if they, for example, used a card that searches, like Sword Soul Emergence, or the Cornfield Codal, you can now use this in accordance with Droll in order to do the Reincarnation Hand Loop, where they have 0 cards, and it's actually better than the Reincarnation Hand Loop because they're in deck.
Yep.
Um, it's just it's just an all around decent card. I didn't end up making it, but it's very good. Um, Last card in the extra is the Diamond, and this card I want to talk about a lot.
Let's do it.
Uh, this is either the card you make if you want to make a 3 material Ptolemaeus, if you've decided to, and you're not worried about evenly, or you're against like a tier matchup. This card is crazy. First of all, it's the reason this Ptolemaeus is a 4 material Zeus with using 2 materials, because you just rank it up over Ptolemaeus in main phase 2 for no cost, meaning that you've now got 3 materials at minimum. underneath the Ptolemaeus, which you can then use for a 4 material Zeus. The more important thing is that it stops the opponent, either player, from sending cards from deck to the graveyard, and cards that would return to the graveyard or from the graveyard to the hand are banished instead. This messes with Tearlaments. This messes with Unchained. This messes with a lot of decks. And the returning from banished to the hand messes with Chimera Fusion, which is a
Mm,
big card to do a small amount of trolling against.
absolutely.
And then the other effect that doesn't often come up because it's kind of situational, you can attach a material from this card to negate dark effects. And that's not once per turn. It's not even once per chain. If your opponent is on Labyrinth and you're able to make this against them turn 1, they've lost the game. They have just lost the game because
No
you
lie.
can go negate Stovey, negate Shandrag, negate Lady,
Mhm.
or negate Kuklok, and then you just go, okay, go.
Mhm.
Like they have to chain block, and that's the only way they can beat this card. It hoses tier because you can attach negate the tier fuse effects, stops them from sending cards from deck to graveyard, which turns off Sheeran, Havness, Murley,
Mhm.
and Rhinoheart. And they can't use some of their spell traps because they can't add cards from graveyard to hand without getting banished.
Heck yeah. So if you're playing against tier, if you had the chance to make this over Dweller, is that the go?
Sometimes the thing about Diamond is that it's actually somewhat costly to make in main phase 1 because you have to do the Ptolemaeus detach 3 to rank up for 1 activation of it, and
Right.
once it loses that material, it no longer has the floodgate effect.
Gotcha.
More importantly, Dweller's lingering effect is much more deadly against against decks like Tearlaments.
Right. That makes sense because like if let's say they play Book of Moon, they Book of Moon
Oh,
Diamond,
yep,
it's over. But you could always change Dweller to the book.
right. And
Gotcha.
if you want to get real cheeky, Dweller's a water, so you could play Spiritual Water Aoi, and then play like a Strena package if you want to play like some Rickas, and now you have an Aoi target or 2 Aoi targets
Thank you.
if you wanted to like do that on the side
Yeah.
as a goofy play.
Thank you. All right. To get in the side, this looks almost the same, minus a couple cards. So the Droll, obviously, a great card. Uh, you're not running the one Gamma Seal, so I assume you pick up
I
another one.
bought a second one. I caved.
All
I
right.
bought a second one, and then I'm actually. So it's funny. I'm actually considering just cutting Gamsey altogether and just playing 3 Godarla because
Okay.
Godarla being a 7 is just so much nicer because they can't just like normal a meek and I go
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just the smallest kaiju's I could get my hands on.
I got you. Okay.
Uh,
And then the three anti spell.
it's
Uh,
anti-spell fragrance.
yeah. Yeah. Super
It's
good.
the best one of the best floodgates in the game.
And then Gravediggers, you said swap, put the floodgate in the side, and then put this in the main.
In this format, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you can justify just not running a hole in the extra or in the side, and that's really nice. Sometimes I think that running a mix of hole, at least 1 or 2 tech holes. For example, if you're in a meta with a lot of branded or chimera,
Mhm.
or like places where they can normal summon Albaz, basically.
Right.
Playing bottomless in the side, for example, is a very important option for you, or in the main even, because normal summon Fallen of Albaz is not contested by any hole except bottomless trap hole, and I think trap hole, the original trap hole.
Gotcha. Okay.
Uh, Duster Change of Heart is it's just like Duster is a card, and Change of Heart was a last minute switch from Cosmic Cyclone because I was like, I want this card because I kind of am afraid of Unchained, or I want a second board breaker versus Unchained.
Gotcha.
And then Judgment is just.
Yeah, just judgment. I mean,
I
what?
did decide to play no deep air this format, which I think is correct because there's just too many decks that just decide to link summon
Right.
as opposed to anything else.
Okay. So no more Pinker Tops in the side. In the side, we swapped it out.
Uh, it's it's just because Unchained.
Gotcha.
Tragically, both of Pankratops' main attributes are not done by or are not good against Unchained, and I didn't want to cut the Gravediggers, which would be the only other card that I'd switch out. Maybe I could go for like 2 Cosmics, 1 Pank, but Pank is usually in place of a Cosmic anyway,
Gotcha.
um,
Okay.
as pseudo back removal.
All right. Cool. 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 All right. So I'm gonna get into a little bit more questions just about the deck. So what put you on TrapTrix? What made you want to play it?
I'd been playing TrapTrix for about, I want to say, a year and a half. I started February of 2022, back when Master Duel dropped. I'd played a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in, I want to say, 2010, 2011 era. Not competitively at all.
Right.
Maybe in 2007. I think 2007 was like around the time I started, 2008. Early synchro format, basically.
Gotcha.
And I played with like friends on a playground. My boss monster was Power Tool Dragon in my deck with 2 Morphtronic Staplen and a Morphtronic Selfon type deal. Um, and I just stopped playing because all of my friends stopped playing. And then I had followed Yu-Gi-Oh like passively for a bit, like watched like Rada videos and like some random stuff about like, oh, this is how pendulum summoning works, or this is
Right.
how
Right.
this is the new Xyz deck, Zodiac, and I'd go, oh, that's cool. Uh, okay, and then I would just like not think about it ever again. And then some of my friends got into Master Duel, so I picked up Master Duel and was like, okay, what's a cool deck? Oh, this card Vermelio interacts with whole normal traps. Oh, that's cool. So like bottomless trap hole. Oh, there's a lot of holes, whole
Yeah.
normal traps in this card game. Let's try it. And then I just decided to stick with that deck, and I just bought it in paper and was like, this deck's sick.
Heck
Let's
yeah.
play it.
Heck yeah. All right, awesome, dude. Yeah, TrapTrix is definitely one of those archetypes, man. It's super fun to play with, and I've always been a fan of rank fours, and the fact that this deck can just pump out rank fours so easily is what really just intrigued me for sure.
Oh yeah. It's a very simple deck to like fate to like look and be like, okay, this is the game plan. It's a very simple, repeatable, straightforward game plan that has a lot of nuances.
Absolutely, but it's pretty straightforward, but it's such a high ceiling once you get deeper into the turns.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. What is like your standard inboard? If you go first.
Uh 99% of the games that I play
Mm-hmm.
with this deck, the end board will be Sarah Shifter, set as many cards as I can, pass.
Gotcha.
Sometimes there's a Kampa in there, and if there's a Kampa in there, it's sometimes a Rafflesia instead of a Reader. Again, if I end up setting 5, I will often make Ping in place of Reader to search.
Okay.
Sometimes my end board is a Reader with no material, Nibiru token. That's fine, I think, as long as I have back row to back it up.
Right. Right.
Dweller is matchup dependent. Durandal is only if I'm post side and I know for like, and I have the hardest of reads that they have an evenly.
Right.
Uh, there's not many other end boards because the thing about this deck is you're not playing for turn 2, or you're not playing for to win on turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing to not die turn 2
Gotcha.
a lot
Gotcha.
of the time.
That's a good way to think about it for sure because trap tricks is really easy just to dump all your resources. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's actually a good thing to do. What might be a line of play that you're doing that others aren't abusing?
Um, I don't know actually, because the thing
I
is,
think
like a
it's
lot
this
of
one.
the
I ain't gonna lie. I think
I
it's this
no,
card.
because the thing is, I think a lot of people do Alamiris plays.
Really?
I think Alamiris plays are, if not like a fairly standard thing, it's like a thing that you only have to try a little bit to OTK to
Mm-hmm.
realize, oh, I could do this. I think people definitely don't read Alamiris. I think they see Alamiris and they go, okay, this is the one that gives you that like it's an equip spell it's an equip spell from the extra deck that boosts the attack points of one of your TrapTrix monsters.
Gotcha.
Um, uh, but I really think that there's not many lines of play that people don't utilize in the deck. It's more, actually no, sorry. The one line of play I think that I use that most people don't
Okay.
is Vesiculo Send Holity to Grave as a starting play.
Okay.
That is vile. That play is vile because you now have a monster that if they pop it, like for example, if they're on Rescue Ace,
Right.
you haven't used your normal summon. You if they pop it, you have Holity in Graveyard to reborn the Vesiculo. So now they have to use the other trap on it, and you still haven't normal summoned. Um, it's a very sticky play, and it also lets you normal summon Dionea, for example, if you're Vesiculo stuck, to make a Sarah and a Rafflesia on summon 5, while you have access to Shade or a second Holity.
Okay.
It's a very powerful play.
All right. Um.
But I feel like it's just knowing when and when not to commit. Because you can do like the craziest play. If this deck was about going wombo combo, then the Rika build or the Serena build or the Therion build would be the best version. But I think this one, which loses to the fewest hand traps, is just better than all of those, even if it loses to evenly a little bit harder.
Gotcha. Okay. So, why don't you think that people, play this deck that much? Why don't like a lot of people hop on the TrapTrix train? Is
Um,
Loud better?
it's I don't think lab is better because the thing about lab is that, and I play lab. I have a very funny mix max rarity deck of one QCR, one Starlight, one Secret Lady. Like that. That's the kind of thing that I'll do. I play one gold rare Mermelio with 2 supers. I have the third super, but I don't play it.
Gotcha.
Um, and it's just like a thing with um, it's perception. The deck is really, really powerful, but the deck also relies a lot on either the die roll or cards like Shifter. Shifter alone wins a lot of games. Evenly matched wins a lot of games. If you have enough space where you can main deck kaiju's, but it's also that it's not as flashy. The deck
Right.
is like even with Sprite's not a very flashy deck, but you can do a lot of cool things in it. You can play a going second build where you blow up everything. You can play like whatever combo fest you want. TrapTrix doesn't tend to want to play a combo fest, and even when it does, it often doesn't do it nearly as well as another deck. So you're stuck playing a very back row focused deck that doesn't play any blowouts. A lot of the cards in the deck aren't game enders on their own, in the same way Labyrinth can with Skill Drain or Gozen Match, or Madolche can by looping the trap card that just negates everything, uh, or Marincess does with looping the trap that makes them unaffected.
Right.
There's a lot of different decks. Pearly even if I think Pearly is kind of mid, it has it's it's a little bit of new toy syndrome mixed with the fact that the deck is just a lot less flashy than other decks.
Gotcha.
It's also not the best deck, so why would you play the ninth best deck if it's not the flashiest deck?
I agree. I agree. Okay. All right. Cool, man. All right. The last question I got is, do you think this deck would still be viable after Age of Overlord?
Oh, absolutely. SP Little Knight. This deck plays SP Little Knight like no, like almost no other. I think the only deck that plays it better is Unchained,
Right.
or decks that just decide to always end on IP Masquerena. Um, SP, I had a bit of trouble when I was at the sneak because I got one, fitting it into the list,
Mhm.
or fitting into the list when I got home from the thing. I still don't know what I'm gonna switch out because I really like having 3 Sarah in it, but I also think that Underworld Goddess is probably the weakest link.
Okay.
But the thing about the Age of Overlord, the best decks aren't changing too much. There's not much in the set that creates its own deck. TG's got a thing, but they're just like another synchro deck like Synchron or Manadium, and I think they're gonna be merged with them in the same way. The Horus stuff is not good. The Testina stuff just didn't pan out being good. Some other decks got some support that I don't think will help them super much. Dark World, I guess, is going to be an issue, but you are a deck that doesn't lose to Droll, and if Droll's extremely popular because Dark World's running around, you're completely fine with that. SP Little Knight, you have a Link one, so any 2 bodies makes SP Little Knight. The only if you want, if they ash your Holity, make a second Sarah. Those 2 Sarahs into SP. Now you're playing SP control for a turn. Like it's incredible. It's an incredible card, and that's like the only card that I think is going to be super centralizing. I think the Rescue Ace stuff it's not like incredible, or it's not the worst, but it's not incredible. I think it will just make a already good deck a little bit better, but
Right.
not to the extent that it's going to warp the meta or anything.
All right. I also think this card will definitely help for when they ash Sarah. It'll
Yeah,
give a play for us to actually do now versus pass with Sarah and hope for the best.
this card is the best argument for playing Exceed that they've had in a while. If you have Exceed, this is the one time where I'm going to be like, you're probably fine also playing Exceed instead of Overshade, because if they Ash Shade, unless you're playing Link Spider, which you're probably not, you don't have a way to SP. If they don't Ash SP, or if they don't Ash Sarah, you have a rank 4. You can make Alamaris, I guess, Reborn, make SP. But SP is usually not an end board anyway. But like the thing is that this deck can already make IP pretty easily.
Right.
So I think SP is at worst going to be a great card in the deck, and at best going to be one of the best cards after you break a board, or while you're breaking the board.
Right. Right. Heck yeah, dude.
Um, but I think this deck doesn't change in viability too much.
Okay.
Um, After Agov, I think Shifter's too good of a card even after Agov. Shifter just kills Rescue Ace. Shifter kills whatever Iblu line Rescue Ace is going for. It kills everything the same way it always did. Nothing that banishes is getting better right now.
All right. Absolutely. Alrighty, man. You got any shout outs you want to give?
Shouts to my parents for putting out my bullshit. Shout outs to the New Hampshire and Vermont Yu-Gi-Oh scenes for the hyperbolic time chamber they put me in, I guess.
Heck yeah.
And shouts to the people who went down with me to Hartford. It's the first one that I didn't drive myself down. And it was also the first one that I actually tested with people beforehand.
Nice, nice. It's always good to have a good group to test play with.
Hell yeah, it's so nice.
Alright, man. Well, congrats on your tops, man. Congrats with the success with this deck, man. We hope to still see you play this and do well with it. And yeah, man, we're pulling for you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for
All
having
right.
me on.
Thank you, man.